Welcome to the show to be named later, where we're talking baseball, kind of whenever. We're uploading to YouTube as soon as possible. You're gonna try to get it every Wednesday now. Over on the other side of the screen, as you can see, is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
I'm doing all right, Chris. Another fun week of research. We went hot wild this week. We got Paul Molitor, a Hall of Famer. We got the 2005 World Series champion Chicago White Sox today. It's going to be a good one, and I'm excited.
We'll preview these guys. Paul Molitor, I did some research. I'm excited about this one, but the '05 White Sox, I didn't realize how dominant they actually were.
They were a very interesting team, not like many others. I'll say that.
Yeah. There's no real MLB news. I think things are, because we are an MLB news kind of analysis podcast.
I guess there's the idea. Manfred recently put out that he is anticipating games to be played this year, which I hope he does. Like, I hope they play games, but
yeah,
you can't be too sure right now.
Numbers are getting better. The models are looking better. So I guess it's more optimistic, and I guess
we'll have to see. I mean, there's nothing for sure because obviously social distancing is doing its job, but you got to be careful about when you want to end that.
Yeah, exactly. And also, playoffs will be happening during the fall when another possible outbreak could happen, I guess.
Hopefully.
I'm no scientist, but that's what the experts say, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So because there's no baseball going on, we would usually be talking about
what teams are doing really well, what players are having good seasons, how many times the Astros have been hit already.
Yeah.
Mike Trout has already wrapped up his 4th MVP.
Yeah.
The Mariners look really good, but we all know they'll fade.
Yeah. I don't know who just starts out.
The Mets are already injured.
Yeah, the Mets are already injured. I have nothing.
Can't get any run support.
Yep. Yeah, DeGrom is 0-2 with a 1.5 ERA.
Yeah.
Yeah. But instead we have decided to go history based, a lesson for ourselves and for the listeners, and also kind of modernize how players are looked at historically.
Yes.
I have picked 30 baseball players. Assign them a number 1 through 30. Daniel picks a number and whatever player is assigned to that number, we're going to talk about for the next episode. Same thing. I pick a number that to a team that Daniel has assigned a number. I'll pick a random number, and whatever team that is, we talk about that team for the second half of the episode. So this week he picked the number that was assigned to Paul Molitor, and I picked the number that was assigned to the 2005 Chicago White Sox.
That's right.
Very exciting stuff, and we're going to get right into it because there's really not much.
What I like about this show is it's a player and a team that both kind of fly under the radar. In times.
Yeah, kind of fly under the radar. My list has some stars, but I didn't want to pick anyone that like they've made like movies on or anything. And like you picked the 1990 Reds, who were definitely overlooked instead of like the Big Red Machine.
Exactly.
So, teams that were kind of overlooked, and players that were also kind of overlooked. I think Joe Morgan was a good example of that last week.
Exactly.
Make sure you listen to that one. And Paul Molitor, there's one guy I can compare.
Chris has been waiting all week for this. He's been waiting long. He's been waiting for me to pick his number since we started doing this. You were talking to me about at school before quarantine started about like Paul Molitor. There's this guy that he's very similar to, but he doesn't get enough recognition compared to how much the other guy gets, and we're gonna get into that. Chris, I know you've been chomping at the bit for that.
So the episode, we're gonna start with Paul Molitor. Paul Molitor grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota,
The capital.
definitely breaking our Texas, California, Florida.
Yeah. And what a perfect way to break it. It's not like, just Arizona or like Georgia. We're going way north. We're going off the grid.
Yeah.
To a place
Guys,
where it snows hundreds of inches a year.
yeah, if you're a professional athlete coming out of Minnesota, odds are you're playing in the NHL.
Exactly.
MLB is crazy. So
That's
yeah,
not happening.
good on Paul
Outdoor
Molitor
sport,
for
probably not happening.
developing that skill.
I mean, he's a guy who's taking gym grounders every January.
Yeah, for sure, and
That's
probably
insane grind.
probably longer than we did in or
Oh,
maybe longer than I did. You're a little more north, but definitely longer than Connecticut.
yeah,
Upstate New York, kind of the same,
roughly the same.
roughly the same. Yeah. Um,
There'd be times where we'd be doing it now on April 21st.
yeah, it's rough up there. So Molitor, he grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota. Uh, grew up a big Twins fan, and it is funny because they moved to Minnesota when he was 4 or 5 years old. So like he's basically OG Twins fan.
Yeah, he is.
If you're looking at it.
Mhm.
And he wore number 4 in the major leagues, partially because of Twins outfielder Bob Allison, who I didn't know about, but actually had a pretty good career.
Yeah, he did.
I just remember he had a career 829 OPS, and he just didn't have the longevity, and that's also considering a guy who didn't play in the most offensive era. And but yeah, he really liked Bob Allison, and there's not a crazy amount to Paul Molitor growing up, but in high school he did miss most of his senior year with mono, which
Yeah,
probably brought him down in whatever draft he was going to be drafted out of. But a funny anecdote that a high school coach had of him was that in a States game he got a take sign on a 3-0 count, and he swung at a ball at his face, but it ended up going over the fence for a grand slam, which is pretty wild. They were down 2-1,
yeah.
and he hits one at his face for a grand slam.
That kind of reminds me of a time. A little personal story here. When I was in ninth grade, I came up. I think there was a guy on first, and the first pitch of the at bat. Oh, you know what? There's a guy on first because the pitcher had just walked the person before me on 4 pitches, and
Yep.
my coach gave me the take sign first pitch, and I actually forgot the signs and didn't see it, and I ended up hitting a single into left field, and I come around and score, and later my teammate goes to me, goes, Dan, you know the take sign, right? I was like, yeah, I think so. Why? He goes, yeah, he gave it to you that pitch, and you swung. I was like, oh no. So the next day, he brings it up to me, and he kind of yelled at me a little bit for it. But the funny part about that story is he still brings it up to this day. Like I was in a class with him last year, which would have been my senior year of high school, 3 years later, and he brought that up. He goes, Daniel, remember that time you missed the take sign?
that's
So
that's pretty
the
crazy. I
difference
missed.
here being Paul Molitor is much better than I am. Of course, he ended up in the Hall of Fame, and I'm here.
Yeah.
You're
He
talking about him.
also, in that situation, he hit a home run. You
At a
hit a
ball that
single.
was at his face. My
Yeah,
pitch was right down the middle.
yeah. so yeah, Paul Molitor definitely maximized
Yeah.
that situation, but he only ended up getting drafted in the 28th round out of high school by the St. Louis Cardinals. The signing bonus was $4,000. He held out for an $8,000 signing bonus.
Good call.
Cardinals weren't gonna give that to him out of the 28th round, so he took a scholarship from University of Minnesota to play for the Gophers,
Golden Gophers.
the Golden Gophers, and had a very good career with the Gophers. Hit 375 as a freshman. He missed all Big Ten by 1 vote. Then the next year he stepped it up even more. Hit 406. Shout out to Ted Williams,
Mhm.
and he finished second in the Big Ten in homers. And was also named first team All-American as a sophomore. And junior year, he took a bit of a step back, but was still very good, made first team All Big Ten. The team also made the College World Series, which, if you're unaware, that's the top 8 college teams in the country, which is hard to do when there's 500 Division I college teams.
Especially if you're in Minnesota.
Oh, for sure, yeah. You don't see a lot of that. You see Florida Gators.
You're looking at the SEC. You're looking at, I mean, maybe not in that time, but you're looking at Vanderbilt. You're looking at LSU. You're looking at Miami.
Yeah, yeah. The South definitely has the advantage there, but the Gophers, possibly because of Paul Molitor, were able to get to Omaha, Nebraska. So that season, along with his freshman and sophomore year, gets him drafted by the Brewers, 3rd overall in the draft. Daniel, do you want to? I don't know if you know. Do you want to guess who was drafted number 1 overall in that 1977 draft?
77.
Yeah.
Is it another Hall of Famer?
It is another Hall of Famer.
Ooh. Was it Joe Morgan?
No.
77. Oh yeah, duh. Why would I think that? He was a 2-time MVP by that point. What position?
He was an outfielder.
Okay. In what was it?
77.
I got nothing.
Hall of Famer Harold Baines.
Oh, come on, Chris. Come on. Get out of here. Get out. No. You know, in 500, I would never have guessed that.
So I think that team made the right choice. I mean, I guess they missed on another Hall of Famer, but they still ended up getting a Hall of Famer.
Did they miss on Hall of Famer, Chris? I don't know if they did. Oh, my God.
So, yeah, Paul Molitor, he gets drafted 3rd overall, 2 spots behind Harold Baines. He receives an $80,000 signing bonus, which is, even in 1970.
Better than what he's offered from the Cardinals.
Yeah, 20 times more than the offer by the Cardinals. And Molitor did not take long to adjust to professional baseball. He won the Midwest League MVP, it was his only year, and he joined mid-year. So he won Midwest League MVP playing about 2/3 of that season, which is pretty insane.
Yeah.
For sure. So that leads him to being called up. I don't know if he was in the opening day lineup, but he made his MLB debut on April 7th, 1978. And he did make the opening day roster. He made the opening day roster because Robin Yount was injured.
Almost a Wally Pipp, if you will.
Yeah, almost a Wally Pipp.
The difference being Robin Yount stayed.
Yeah, Robin Yount stayed and got 3,000 hits.
Yeah.
Wally Pipp is just a name in folklore, in baseball folklore.
Right.
So Molitor, he started out as a second baseman because Yount was the main shortstop, so he wasn't going to take Yount's spot. He finished 2nd in the Rookie of the Year voting, had a 673 OPS, but also 30 stolen bases. So that can earn you the Rookie of the Year runner-up, especially when you're playing a full season. In 1979, he ramps it up, bats .322 with an .842 OPS to go along with 33 stolen bases. He also got MVP votes, finished 20th in MVP voting. And then in 1980, very interesting year for Paul Molitor, both on the field and off the field, because he was hitting .358 with a .923 OPS until he pulled a muscle in his rib cage on June 6th. He made the All-Star squad, but he could not play in it. And over that time recovering from injury, he actually developed a cocaine habit because it's 1980, everyone's doing it, and then he kind of gets anxious, comes back from injury probably too early, and for the rest of the season, he ends up hitting .265 with a .723 OPS, and that brought his numbers down. Those were also in 64 games, and his coke habit didn't stop. Went into the off season, but after a bad episode where he didn't go to his parents' house for Christmas because he was passed out from partying the night before. Because of that episode, pretty much got off of it. His wife threatened to leave him because of the incident, and he got off of it. Religion helped him out. So definitely a battle he had to get over very quickly. Pretty impressive how quickly he got off of it, and no word of him not getting back on it. And for a guy who developed a habit in his early 20s, I bet that's probably tough for him to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something you ever want to get involved with, especially, something to look back on. And obviously it's a great thing that he was able to get over it. And for a bad situation like that, he handled it perfectly. He found a way to get over it. He was able to get over it, and hey, that happened, and it didn't affect his life on the field going forward.
Yeah, whatever he found a way to get off of it and kept with it, and he's fine now. So that leads him into the rest of his career, and it didn't get better immediately for him on the field. In 1981, he was limited to 64 games because of injury and also the players' strike. I think the team that played the most games was probably played like 115 games maybe. And the Brewers made the playoffs back when, and they were also an American League team at the time, keep in mind. And they lost to the Yankees in the ALDS in 5 games. There was a division series because because the season was so short, they added more playoff teams.
Okay.
It's a weird thing. I would read about it. It's hard to explain. What was that?
That must have been a 1-year thing for that period of time, because they switched right back to just a championship series right after that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for 12 more years.
Yep.
So 1981, that was also his only season playing outfield. Played center field for most of the season, which I guess definitely shows his athleticism. I mean, you're stealing 30 bags a year, you can play outfield, and you can hit the ball very well. And then he goes to third base from 1982 to 1986 for the most part. And he kind of split time between DH and third base between 88 and 92 as well. And then in 82, has a very good year, probably the best year of his career. He hit 302 with an 816 OPS to go along with 41 stolen bases. Also led the MLB in runs scored at 136. And he finished 12th in the MVP voting, which was the highest mark of his career. Also, that's kind of when we were introduced to, I guess I could call them Paulie playoffs, Paulie postseason. The guy raked in the postseason. He hit 316 with a 1065 OPS with 2 home runs and 5 RBI in a 5-game American League Championship Series victory against the Angels. And Fred Lynn, who was on the Angels, actually won that ALCS MVP, which, looking at the numbers, he probably deserved it because he was 11 for 18 with a 1539 OPS that series. So, I guess the guy from the losing team kind of deserved it.
It's better than most people's SAT scores.
Yeah, better than that's a good point. Better than most.
Definitely better than my SAT score.
Oh, definitely mine, for sure.
Runs laps around mine.
For sure.
I mean, MVP on a losing team, that's impressive.
Yeah, definitely, when you think of like weird baseball, that's definitely one to put in the log for sure. And Molitor, he probably would have won ALCS MVP if it weren't for the guy on the losing team. And that leads us to the World Series because, they won the American League Championship Series.
They did. The first, and to this point, only Brewers World Series appearance in their history.
Yeah. So Paul Molitor, he was 4 for 5 to start the game. He was 4 for 5 to start the game, and the record for most hits in a World Series game was 5. And we're going to see if Paul Molitor breaks this record.
Usual for game number 1 of the World Series. Just missed him. Base hit, 1 more run scores. That's the 5th base hit. And it's a ball game. That's a World Series record. And it is 5 hits in 1 game, a new record.
So he does break the record. He does break the record. 5 for 6 in game 1 of the World Series. As a whole in that series, he ended up hitting .355. All of his hits were singles, which didn't impact his OPS very well. And the Brewers ended up losing that series in 7 games to the Cardinals.
Gotta love Bob Uecker on that call, by the way.
Yeah, a young Bob Uecker for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that good performance in 1982 leads to him getting a 5-year, $5.1 million deal. Trust me, it was a lot back then. Definitely not the same as $5.1 million now. And in that 1983 season, kind of took a step down. 743 OPS, 41 stolen bases. Still chugging along with the stolen bases. And then in 1984, he actually has to get Tommy John surgery. He was limited to
a rare
13 games.
Rare position player getting it.
Yeah. A Didi Gregorius type Tommy John surgery. Shut him down for basically the entire season. He only played 13 games. Then in 1985, comes back. Pretty good year. 764 OPS, 21 stolen bases. And then in 86, has almost an identical year, except he played less games. 765 OPS, 20 stolen bases. And because of a torn hamstring in 1986, he was limited to only 105 games that year. So, you're looking at Paul Molitor. He's a 3rd pick overall. At the time, he was a pretty good player. Up to 1986, which was his age 29 season, he had 1,203 hits. He had a 291 average, a 766 OPS, a 29.3 baseball reference WAR, and a 27.3 Fangraphs WAR. So he's having a pretty good career, but he's not really by any means on a Hall of Fame trajectory yet. So Daniel's going to talk about kind of when he turned things around.
So 1987 was the year that he became on that Hall of Fame trajectory that we were so longing. In 1987, 353, 438, 566, 1003 with 45 stolen bases. Unfortunately, he had injuries that season, which limited him to just 118 games. I made him a DH for most of the season. He led the NL. Were they in the NL at this time?
I
was gonna say he led the AL in doubles and runs scored. He finished 3rd in the AL in baseball reference WAR and FWAR, Fangraphs WAR, and he finished 5th in the MVP voting. So to that point, his best season in 1987, despite the injuries. That season, a 39-game hit streak from July 16th, which is the first game after a 19-day absence, by the way, until August 25th. And during that time, he slashed 415, 495. He had almost a 500 OBP. He got on base just about half the time. 683, 1178 during the streak, along with 15 stolen bases. The streak ended with the Brewers walking it off with him on deck, which is pretty funny. Maybe some hard feelings in the dugout after that game, but I don't know.
Yeah, kind of a bittersweet moment there. But in all fairness, it was an extra inning, so I guess his time it kind of passed. One thing
I don't think he cared that much. Anyway, the streak was the 7th longest at all time. So then that was the big year for him. From 1988 to 1992, he signed a two-year, $2.8 million deal with the Brewers in '88. He hit .312 with an .836 OPS and 41 stolen bases in '88, and he finished 8th in the MVP voting that season. From '89 to '92, his average season was .314 average with an .845 OPS, as well as 24 stolen bases and 144 games. What you're seeing here is consistency. You know, he's not necessarily lighting up all the stats and the charts and the graphs and all that, but he's doing what he should be doing. And, you know, a .314 average, you know, I know average isn't heavily influenced as much as it was back then, but a .314 average is seen as a Hall of Famer back then. And an .845 OPS is nothing to scoff at either, especially from a shortstop in that era. He also had a series of injuries that held him to 103 games back in 1990, and he signed a 3-year, $9.1 million deal in 1990. He became a first baseman / DH in 91, had to adjust a little bit. He also led the league in hits and triples in 91, and he finished 11th in the MVP voting that season, 10th in 1992. Also, during that time period, him, Robin Yount, and Jim Ganter set a record for the longest tenure by 3 teammates on one team. They played together for 15 years on the Brewers, and nobody has since beaten that.
Yeah, eat that, Core 4. Yeah, so, and Ganter and Ganter and Yount were kind of upset when apparently the Brewers could not afford to pay Paul Molitor anymore. He had, I guess, priced out the Brewers, and he went on the free agent market, which he was probably one of the first bigger free agents. Maybe not. I think free agencies picked up in like the 70s, but he was definitely like an early era free agent. It wasn't as common as it is now. And and also Yount was pretty upset. He ended up retiring after the 93 season, which he played one season after Molitor left, and then he left the league. So it might have been a factor, might have not been, to be fair. So Molitor goes to the defending World Series champion Toronto Blue Jays for 3 years and $13 million. Gets that check, gets on a winning team. I mean, he has to be extremely happy. And he goes on to have probably the best season of his career. He hits .332, has a .402 on-base percentage, .509 slugging for a .911 OPS to go along with 22 stolen bases in what I believe it was his age 36 season to go with that. 22 stolen bases as a 36-year-old is pretty wild, also considering that he's slugging pretty well. He also had 22 homers. Led the MLB in hits, and with runners in scoring position, he was especially good. Hit .384 with runners in scoring position. And, you know, all stuff like that results you in finishing second in the MVP voting. Big time year for Paul Molitor.
By the way, that 22 home runs you mentioned, also a career high for him at age 36.
Yeah. So definitely an interesting career for Molitor. Didn't go the normal trend. Like last week we talked about Joe Morgan. He kind of had that ideal trend. Paul Molitor kind of goes against that for sure. And then Paulie playoffs emerges, probably a reason why he went to the Blue Jays, because he knows he's best. He knows it's best. He knows he's best when it matters most. And it started right away. ALCS Game 1 against the White Sox, he goes 4 for 5. He hits the go-ahead single and a late-inning 2-run home run, which basically sealed the victory. They won 7-3 that game. And in the entire ALCS, he hit .391 with an 1177 OPS to go along with 5 RBI. Spectacular performance from Paul Molitor. It can't get any better than that, right? You're wrong. You're wrong if you're at home thinking it can't. You're wrong if you're at home if you think it can't get any better than that. That's a hard phrase to say, but Paulie playoffs. He gets back into it. Game 3, he's 3 for 4 with a walk, a home run, and 3 RBI. And I actually watched the full Game 4 on YouTube, and I think it might have been the booth broadcasters or the sideline guy. Like he said, because there was rain at Veteran Stadium before the game, and it delayed the game by about an hour. And he said, rain went away. What we'll remember is this man's day. And the camera was on Paul Molitor. Just a little broadcast anecdote for you there. Then in Game 4, in a legendary 15-14 game, which I was unaware of until this week, in a legendary 15-14 game, he does his part, goes 2 for 4 with a walk, also 2 RBI to go with that. And then the Blue Jays are up 3-1 after that game. They end up getting shut down by a should-be Hall of Famer, Curt Schilling, in Game 5, who I did a rant on.
Hey, he'll have his day. He'll have his day.
Yeah. It's not a Curt Schilling thing. So it's 3-2. Blue Jays up in the series, heading to Toronto, and you know that that there's pressure on the Blue Jays, pressure on Paul Molitor to seal this victory. You don't want to go to a Game 7. Paul Molitor knows that, and I'm going to show you what Paul Molitor did to make sure that this did not go 7. Or wait, that's not it.
That's definitely not what you want. You're spoiling the whole show right here.
Spoiler alert. That's a little inside info for all of y'all.
That's a 10-page document right there.
All right. It is tough out here. And there we are. Here we go. We're going to unmute this. We're going to give you the inside look of what Paul Molitor was able to do for the Blue Jays in Game 6 of the 1993 World Series.
Center, well hit. Eisen right on the run, looking up. It's off the wall. White speeding toward third. He'll come around to score. Molitor into third with a triple.
That was quick.
And the Blue Jays
Over to third.
lead 1-0. He said he wouldn't know till tomorrow. Reducing the likelihood of a Game 7 somewhat with a tremendous blast into the second deck and left.
That's hit number 2 for Paul Molitor. Now we're in the bottom of the 9th. They're down 1. Ricky Henderson is on first base.
Might pick up some steam in his last appearance in Game 4. Line into center, falling fast to him. Third of the night for Molitor. Henderson stops at second. Paul Molitor has been a hitting machine.
So Paul Molitor keeps the line moving in that last at-bat.
Actually, I have a story about that game.
Go right ahead, man.
I cannot confirm that this is true or not, but it is something that I've been told on multiple occasions. One of my friends, his dad, went to college in Buffalo and spent some time in Toronto, and was supposedly, can't confirm that this is true, actually snuck into that game. There was no security. He walked right in and saw that whole thing unfold in the 9th inning.
What inning was that when he snuck in?
I don't know. And once again, I don't know if this is actually true. I've been told by him and my friend that this happened. I wasn't there, obviously. I wasn't born yet, but supposedly maybe that happened. I don't know.
Multiple sources are saying that this is true, but
one of those sources was not alive back then.
Correct. But Paul Molitor, I hope whoever snuck in was able to see Paul Molitor's greatness, because his line for that day was 3 for 5 with a home run and 2 RBI.
Mm-hmm.
Just set the tone for the game, and that last hit didn't end up as important, but in the context of the situation, they were down by 1. He moved Henderson into scoring position. The hit ended up being useless because Joe Carter would have drove him in anyway. But at the time, you're moving a guy into scoring position when you're down by 1 in the World Series. So, all 3 hits were extremely important. And in the series, he ends up winning World Series MVP. Everyone remembers Joe Carter, but
contrary to popular belief, Paul Molitor did in fact win MVP of that series.
Yeah, and you know why? And it was undeniable that Paul Molitor deserved to win that MVP. He was 12 for 24. For those keeping track, that's a 500 batting average. He had a 571 on base, 1571 OPS, 2 home runs, and 8 RBI to go along with 10 runs scored. 10 runs scored in 6 games. Crazy stuff.
It's a great trivia moment right there.
Yeah, that's like.
If you ever get asked that question, who won MVP of the 1993 World Series, the one with the Blue Jays against the Phillies with the walk-off home run? Oh, that was Joe Carter, right? No, it was actually Paul Molitor.
It was Paul. It was Paulie playoffs.
That's like the World Series version of the 2008 Home Run Derby, where Justin Morton is the guy that won it, but everybody remembers Josh Hamilton.
Yeah, you could even say like 2019 Home Run Derby.
Yeah, Vladdy Jr.
Yeah, for sure. And I give him that name, Paulie playoffs.
He deserves it.
Because his career in the postseason, unfortunately, that was the last time we got to see Paul Molitor in the playoffs. His career in the postseason, in 132 plate appearances, 29 games, he hit .368 with a .435 on-base percentage, .615 slugging percentage, and a .1050 OPS. And incredible playoff performances from Paul Molitor. He ends up, he has a 3-year deal with the Blue Jays. Can they three-peat? They definitely can't three-peat. I think they ended up going under 500 in the strike-shortened 1994. So even if they were good, they couldn't have repeated in 94. But in that season, it was no fault of Paul Molitor that they did poorly in 1994. He hit .341 with a .927 OPS and 20 stolen bases in 115 games. Led the league in games played, which only time that happened in his career. And then in 95, he has a .772 OPS. Definitely takes a step back. 12 stolen bases. And you also have to consider that was his age 38 season, so probably slowing down a bit.
So after that, his contract with the Blue Jays does eventually expire. So where do you go? You go to your hometown, of course. He signs a deal with the Twins to finish off his career. And in 1996, his age, I believe, 39 season. Is that correct? His age 39 season.
Yeah.
He hit .341 with an .858 OPS and 18 stolen bases. Finishes 13th in the MVP, which is absolutely insane from a 39-year-old who isn't exactly known for power, especially. Normally, if you think great age 39 seasons offensively, you're kind of thinking more that route. That's not the case for him. And also that season, he gets his 3,000th hit. September 16th, 1996, he becomes, I believe, the 20th member of the 3,000 hit club.
21st.
21st.
They will say it in the broadcast, which is what we are about to show you.
That's right.
There's pretty much an ad for every YouTube video I pull up. I never.
Well, that's because they're all from MLB. That's why it's a verified source.
Yeah, that's a good point there.
Yep.
So yeah, Paul Molitor. And this is actually a pretty unique way to get your 3,000th hit. And here it is.
Center field. Myers and Nunley chase it. Myers, the ball drops. Molitor has his 3,000th hit, and he's chugging for third. And
Look
he's
how
in
quickly he got to third at age 39.
Paul Molitor becomes the 21st member of baseball's 3,000 hit club.
So there it is, 3,000 hits for Paul Molitor.
Quick little anecdote, by the way. Exactly 3 years earlier, September 16th, 1993, was the day that Dave Winfield, another Minnesota native, got his 3,000th hit for the Twins. Same day. Different year, but same day, and same team, and same hometown. He was also from St. Paul.
That's wild. That's the simulators that run the universe. They
really marked it down on that one. They did a great job there.
For sure.
So he finished his career at age 41. His age 41 season, he hit 281 with a 718 OPS. Not obviously, I mean, OPS wasn't a factor back then, but 281 is nothing to complain about at age 41, and even 718, not terrible. So for his career, 10th all-time in hits with 3,319, 6th all-time since the live ball era, 14th all-time in doubles, and also from 87 to 96, he led MLB in hits and doubles. He's the only player out of the 19,000 men that have stepped on an MLB baseball field. He is the only one to have a 300 average, 3,000 hits, 500 stolen bases, and 200 plus homers.
Pretty wild stuff from Molitor. I wasn't expecting to find any stats where he was the only guy to have anything.
Oh, there it is.
I mean, yeah, and I know there's 4 stats there, but it's still very, very significant.
Mm-hmm. All of them have been done by plenty of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Individually.
But he's the only one to string all of them together,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And so Paul Molitor, I've been prefacing this since
This is Chris' big moment.
Since last week. So I remember. So we've had this radio show. It started on radio back in. So we were talking about Hall of Fame stuff. Obviously, Derek Jeter, deservingly so, gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. He gets inducted first ballot for the 2020 inductions, and we were talking about whether he was going to be unanimous or not, and comparatively speaking, we said like absolutely not, and we were definitely frustrated at people who were saying he should have been unanimous. I have a weird view of it on like, I feel like anyone who I think should be a Hall of Famer should be unanimous because I believe everyone should agree with me, but that's just like, it's not how it works in it's not how it works in baseball. But so yeah, if you're thinking Jeter should be one of 2 guys, the top 2 in Hall of Fame vote, I think you're crazy, because you definitely mentioned someone like if he had this career on, say, the Royals, or maybe even like the
Brewers, Blue Jays, and Twins.
The Brewers, Blue Jays, and Twins, he probably doesn't get this recognition. And Paul Molitor is the ultimate example of that. Paul Molitor
is quite this is not an insult to either player, but Paul Molitor is Derek Jeter in a small market.
Yes. So
what was that? So
you look at statistical comparison, and I believe Paul Molitor actually had a better career than Derek Jeter, but it would be fair to say that they were pretty much dead even career-wise. So Jeter has the edge in hits. He has 3,465 hits compared to Molitor's 3,319. Jeter also has the advantage in batting average, a 310 batting average compared to Molitor's 306. Also the advantage in on-base percentage at 377. Molitor had a 369 on base. But Molitor had the edge in slugging, 448 compared to 440, and their OPS, this is why I pointed it out, their OPS was identical at 817.
Both of them 817.
817 exactly. But also, when I looked deeper into it, I realized, Molitor was definitely in a less offensive era than Derek Jeter was. So comparatively, Paul Molitor must have been better, because I looked it up, and there's no pinpoint evidence for it, but I just took the average OPS for every year between 78 and 98, and I took the average OPS from 95 to 2014 and averaged that out. So the average AL, the American League average for OPS between 78 and 98 was 738. That's when Molitor played. 738. And the American League average OPS from 95 to 2014, which is when Jeter played, the average American League OPS from that time frame was 759. Jeter's era had 21 points higher in OPS compared to Molitor's era. So that leads to Molitor having a better OPS plus, which is relative to, the rest of the league. So Molitor had a 122 OPS plus. Jeter had a 115 OPS plus. And then if you want to use the Fangraphs model, Molitor had a 122 weighted runs created plus. Jeter had a 119 weighted runs created plus. You also have to consider what these guys did on the bases. Jeter was a pretty good base runner, but definitely not on Paul Molitor's level. Molitor had 504 stolen bases, and Jeter had 358. Molitor almost had 150 more stolen bases than Derek Jeter. And then, of course, you look at wins above replacement. Molitor was better on the baseball reference scale, and Jeter actually had the edge on Fangraphs, which is weird because, when you look at the hard data, I don't really see where Jeter has an edge, because even Fangraphs defensive data doesn't really like Jeter.
They hate Jeter.
Yeah, they don't like Jeter.
Negative 100 something defensive runs saved.
Yeah, both Fangraphs and Baseball Reference don't like Jeter's defense. So I don't know how Jeter had the higher wins above replacement, but I guess you could say it's even from that standpoint. But I'm making the argument that Paul Molitor had a better career than Derek Jeter, and Paul Molitor got 85.2% of the vote, first ballot, in 2004, and no one complained about it. No one said he should have been.
Should.
Yeah, no one said he should have been unanimous or should have had 90% of the vote. No one was complaining. Oh, and one thing I forgot. Paul Molitor was a better playoff performer too.
That's what I was just gonna mention. I was gonna say the Jeter people will talk to you about the 5 rings and the playoffs and the championships. Paul Molitor did everything he could to get every championship possible.
Absolutely. Jeter.
And you can't put any not having 5 rings on Paul Molitor. That's the fact that Jeter played on a crazy talented team with the best closer of all time, with some great starting pitching. Andy Pettitte, one of the best postseason performers of all time. And no disrespect to Jeter, he had his postseason moments and he was very good too. But comparatively speaking, Paul Molitor should be looked at statistically on the same platform that Derek Jeter's looked at. The only difference is the markets they played in.
I should edit this part out because I'm gonna type it. I'm gonna put in Derek Jeter. I want to see how many playoff series Derek Jeter had, because Derek Jeter never had an OPS higher than Paul Molitor's in that 1993 World Series, and he had way more playoff series. So I'll probably edit this part out until I actually count how many playoff series he was in. Or yeah, it actually says it. Yeah, Derek Jeter. Okay, here we are. Derek Jeter was in 33 playoff series. Paul Molitor was in 5. Yeah, so Derek Jeter had almost 7 times the amount of playoff series that Paul Molitor did. And Derek Jeter did not eclipse the 1993 World Series OPS that Paul Molitor had, despite having 6.6 times the amount of playoff series. And you also have to consider Jeter played in some 3-game series, and he was unable to do better than Molitor in any of those series. So don't come out with the playoff stats. Jeter's playoff OPS was 838. Molitor's was 1050.
Also, another thing I'd like to mention, so you can say whatever you want about win probability added, but it's usually really good at telling you who does a good job of what in the playoffs. Paul Molitor's win probability added, according to Baseball Reference, for the 1993 World Series, 0.84. Derek Jeter's best in a single playoff series was 0.37 in the 97 ALDS that they lost, and he had 1,083 OPS. So he couldn't even get halfway to where Molitor was in the 1993 World Series, according to win probability added.
Yeah, but Mr. November.
Oh, and by the way, his career win probability added in the playoffs, 0.02. He was barely positive. Paul Molitor's was 150.
Yeah, which even like win probability added, I don't know how much.
I think it's better on small. I think it's better on small samples.
It's better on small samples, but it does show that like win probability is really emphasized for like really clutch hits. Like if you have those really clutch hits, you're gonna have.
But that's all they talk about with Jeter. So
you have a high win probability added. I mean, Jeter, like, how many clutch hits can you name? You can name that one that one 12-year-old fan stole in 1996 against the Orioles. You could name that one. You could have Mr. November, like I mentioned, and I don't know, not much else. You could add in his last at bat at Yankee Stadium, which was a 86-mile-an-hour pitch right down the middle that was probably grooved for him because it was the first pitch. Personal bias, I guess, but everything, I didn't want it to become a Derek Jeter bashing thing. I think it should be more about how great
praising Paul Molitor. Listen. The listeners will take this one of two ways: bashing Derek Jeter or praising Paul Molitor. We're trying to praise Paul Molitor here.
Yeah, Paul Molitor Paul Molitor, I believe, was better than Derek Jeter, and I think it definitely puts.
I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to say that he should be looked at on the same platform as Derek Jeter.
Yeah, definitely that, because Derek Jeter, I mean, it puts Derek Jeter in perspective, and it also puts Paul Molitor in perspective.
That's right.
And yeah, Paul Molitor, definitely a guy that should probably be recognized more. And we definitely think Derek Jeter should probably be talked about less, but it's not about that. It's about Paul Molitor. So yeah, Paul Molitor, like you're going to talk about, he didn't stop with baseball once he retired after 1998. No, he did not.
So in his post-playing career, obviously he retires after the 1996 season. Later on, he joins the Twins as a bench coach in 2000 and 2001. He tried to get a managerial job with them, but he lost the job to Ron Gardenhire for the 2002 season. Later, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, like Chris mentioned, in 2004 with an 85.2 voting percentage, first ballot. Spent 9 years as the Twins as a minor league base running and infield coordinator, which kind of sounds like a fake title, but hey, it exists. And he worked under Gardenhire in the majors in 2014 and 15. And finally, his time came. He was hired as the Twins manager in November 2014. And early on, he had a really good impact. In 2015, the team jumped from 70 to 83 wins. Didn't make the playoffs quite yet, but they looked very promising. Unfortunately, in 2016, it took a lesser toll. The team lost 103 games. They actually had the worst record in the league, but they got Royce Lewis out of that number 1 draft pick, which seems to be working out as of now. 2017, that was the big year. The team made the playoffs, got knocked out in the wild card game, unfortunately, but Molitor did win Manager of the Year, which is very exciting. And 2018, unfortunately, the team went 78 and 84, and the team decided to move on. They fired Paul Molitor, and as of now, he doesn't really seem to be doing anything too specific in baseball, at least not getting paid to do so that we know of. I'm sure he's still on a payroll somewhere, but yeah, he doesn't have a specific job.
Yeah, he probably basically took 2019 off. I bet, managing a baseball team for 4 years is going to take a toll on you. So, he's probably with the family as of as of now, and just kind of hanging out. He's probably, I bet I could see him being a manager again later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that is Paul Molitor with a dash of Derek Jeter bashing, but mostly about Paul Molitor. Yeah, the guy, when you think of guys in the 3,000 hit club, Paul Molitor is not the first guy that comes to mind. Probably not even in the first 10 guys that comes to mind. Although it was top 10 in the hits leaderboard.
That's
so
right.
so yeah, that's Paul Molitor. Paulie playoffs. I was happy to learn about his playoff performance, and yeah, so that's our Paul Molitor portion of the episode. After we break off, it's not going to be anything for you guys. We're going to get into the 2005 Chicago White Sox, breaking the 88-year curse. The curse of maybe the Black Sox. I'm not sure.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah, but we're going to get into that right in the snap of a finger. And welcome back to the show to be named later, where we are going to be talking about the 2005 Chicago White Sox.
That's right.
A 99 and 63 team. Spoilers. Very, very good team. We'll get into why. Daniel, start off. Talk about what was the context of this Chicago White Sox situation.
So before I get into this, I know I say this every week, but this team was a pleasure to dive into. So much fun. Like there's so many things about this team that you just don't see in other teams of their caliber.
Yeah, we have yet to cover a team that has won a lot of World Series. So this is definitely these are definitely unique teams.
This is a forgotten classic team for sure.
Yes.
And I'll get into many reasons why. But to start off, the White Sox went 83-79 in 2004. They didn't make the playoffs. And in fact, they had not won a playoff game since 1993 going into this year. And they were projected to finish fourth in the division going into the year. And they were also barring an 88-year curse. They hadn't won a World Series or even a playoff series since 1917. Like they had, when you talk about the Red Sox curse, you talk about the many years they'd lost the World Series. When you talk about the Cubs curse, you talk about Steve Bartman, you talk about the Black Cat. This team had this team didn't have any heartbreaking moments. They kind of just were irrelevant for 88 years.
Yeah, they just came in raw.
Yeah. And over the offseason, they made a lot of small moves that seemed to be really interesting. First of all, they signed Jermaine Dye as a free agent from Oakland. Of course, many people know him for being on the Moneyball squad. They signed A.J. Przinsky as a free agent to be their catcher. They traded Carlos Lee, much bigger name person, for Scott Podsednik and Luis Vizcaíno. They also claimed some guy named Bobby Jenks off of waivers from the Angels. And they signed a guy named Tadahito Iguchi out of Japan. And, this team was very interesting. Not supposed to be very good, but certainly a new cast of characters on the south side of Chicago. And they started out red hot. They won from April 4th to April 25th. They won 16 of their first 20 games. That's right. They were 16-4, Chris. They had an 800 winning percentage, and the next best team in the whole league was a 706 winning percentage. They were 94 points higher than the next team.
Big time. That's big time.
They had a 5-game lead in the AL Central over the Twins. And the big bright spot for this team through this period of time was their pitching, their starting pitching particularly. John Garland was 4-0 with a 1.80 ERA, despite only having 11 Ks in 30 innings pitched. He had 3.3 Ks per 9. Just an absolute BABIP machine. And by the way, that low strikeout rate, but still very good pitching, that's going to be a theme throughout this show. Mark Burley, a 3-1 record with a 2.61 ERA, 23 strikeouts and 31 innings pitched. El Duque, Orlando Hernandez, 2-1 with a 2.35 ERA, 14 strikeouts in 23 innings pitched. Freddie Garcia, 2-1, a 3.21 ERA, 15 Ks and 28 innings pitched. last but not least, Jose Contreras. This is probably the worst pitcher they had at this time, starting pitcher. 0-0 with a 3.48 ERA, the worst ERA in the rotation. Get him out of here. 3.48, I mean, what are you doing? 15 strikeouts in 20 and 2/3 innings. They had a 2.65 starting pitcher ERA, which led the NL, or the AL, excuse me. It wasn't really even close. Yet they had a 5.29 Ks per nine, which ranked 9th in the AL. And also the offense was kind of lacking. They were 11th in the AL in weighted runs created plus with 79. In fact, they were tied for 11th. The Indians also had 79, so they could have been 12th on that list as well. They had the 10th best OPS in the AL with a 696 and the 9th best average with a 258. So no matter which side you're looking at for the offense, could be better.
Yeah, for sure. And like that just shows how good that pitching staff was. You can have 79 weighted runs created plus and still go 16-4.
That's right.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And the pitching definitely led the way that season. I think, yeah, the offense ended up being below average the entire season. They picked it up a little bit. They were still below average. So yeah, they start out red hot. They kind of keep it going. Not exactly at that pace. It's pretty much impossible. But they end up going 57-29 heading into the All-Star break. That was the best record in the MLB. They were 9 games up in the AL Central, and they were 6 games up on the next best team in the entire American League. Incredible stuff from the Chicago White Sox, starting out red hot. They had 4 All-Stars. They had Mark Burley, Paul Konerko, Scott Podsednik, and John Garland all going to the 2005 All-Star game. And Mark Burley in particularly was having a great first half, resulted in him getting the All-Star game start, and ended up getting the victory as well.
You got the win.
In his short All-Star start. The team also in that first half, before July 1st even, the literal first half, the team had 3 separate 8-game winning streaks, which is insane. You don't see that
never
from many teams. 3 separate 8-game winning streaks. So it wasn't just one big long streak. They were able to get on streaks consistently over those first 3 months, and they also, probably the biggest surprise that I found, that actually Daniel was able to find this week.
This is credit to NBC Sports Chicago. They had this.
Yeah, they set a record, an MLB record that also still stands, by having a lead in each of their first 37 games. They had a lead in each of their first 37 games, basically a month and a half. They have a lead every game.
Like, hey, we're doing something well right now, in at least once in every game. Like, there was no there was no tough one.
Yeah.
Like, from first to last pitch over the first 37 games of the season for the White Sox.
Yeah, they didn't just get straight up slaughtered one game. They were always
they were in it every game.
Yeah, always in it. And even when it went kind of worse for them, they were still pretty good. I mean, they slowed down in the second half, which is understandable when you have a crazy division lead. You're probably resting some guys. They went, guys are also getting tired a little bit. They go 42-34 in the second half. And they were especially bad in the month of August. They went 12-16 in that month.
They also had a 7-game losing streak that month.
Yeah, had a 7-game losing streak to combat those 3 8-game winning streaks that they had earlier in the season. And, them slowing down, and also the Indians kind of heated up as the season got later. They're from August 1st to September 22nd, their lead in the division went from 15 games ahead to 1.5 games ahead, which is pretty scary, actually.
They got it about as close as you could possibly get it. They coasted as much as they could.
Yeah, like razor thin, but they were able to win that division, still, relatively handily. I think they had the division lead for the entire season.
Wire to wire.
Yeah, they never lost that division lead, even though it was at 1.5 games on September 22nd. So even more incredibly, this team was able to get it together on the road, particularly. They were 52-29 on the road as a whole. We're kind of getting into the whole season. Just hit my mic.
I was gonna say, what just happened to your mic?
Yeah, I hit it doing hand motions, talking with my hands finally.
Classic
Crook. So they go 52-29 on the road, and they finished the regular season with a 99-63 record. That's the best record in the American League. Was it the best record in the MLB at the time?
No, the Cardinals went 162.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, they were a game off from the best record in the MLB. They had the best record in the American League, which is kind of what matters, especially when there was the All-Star game determined home field advantage.
And who was the guy that got the All-Star game win?
Yeah, who was the guy? Mark Burley.
Mark Burley.
So it didn't really matter if they had the best record in the MLB because of that admittedly stupid rule, but the White Sox were able to get that home field advantage. So they have home field advantage throughout the AL playoffs and also the World Series if they get there. And what was unique about the Chicago White Sox, the 2005 Chicago White Sox, is they won a lot of close games. Mm-hmm. They only had a plus 96 run differential, which was sixth best in the AL, which is pretty surprising. Usually if you have the best record in the American League, you're first or second in run differential.
They were sixth. They were not even top five. Yeah. There were teams that didn't make the playoffs that had better run differentials than them. The Indians were like a 148 or something like that, maybe 118, I don't know. But the Indians were significantly better by that measure.
Yeah, and you also have to consider they were a combined 7-10 against the Red Sox and the Angels, which
are the other two division winners in the AL.
Yeah, who would be their opponents in the playoffs. Yeah, who would be their opponents in the playoffs. So I could see how the media might have some doubt with this team because, they're not winning by a lot, partially because of good bullpen play. They were able to get things going and win those games. But, I could see how there would be some doubt. But, we can't get off of a crazy regular season highlight because August 21st, there was even though it was a 12-16 August for them, they still had a flair for the highlights.
The White Sox did something that I can't imagine any other team ever did.
Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
I'm not gonna say exactly what happens, but the White Sox did a thing that I don't know the exact number, but I can't imagine this ever happened in the history of baseball in this particular man's career outside of this one moment in 2005.
Yeah. So here we are. It's August 21st, 2005. If
the
that
Yankees
was not
are in
implied
town.
Before.
And the Yankees are in town.
The Yankees are in town.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees, they're excited because they got this ace. They've got an ace, a future Hall of Famer, the big unit.
The unit.
Randy Johnson. See what the White Sox did to him on August 21st. Here it is.
I feel stretch, get on back there. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes. Tadahito Iguchi.
Great name, by the way.
And this game is tied at 1. Monday home run replay, and he's done this before. Going to right field, playing the conditions. The ball carries well that direction, and it's in the bullpen of the Yankees. That ball hit hard into right center field. Stretch! Get up! Womack looks up. You can put it on the ball. Yeah!
Going back-to-back off of the big unit. You don't see that a lot. You see Tadahito Iguchi and Aaron Rowand each getting a home run. I mean, I don't think the unit is doing anything is going to be able to handle this. I think he's going to lock it down, probably get a strikeout this next at bat.
That ball hit deep. Way back. He looks up. You can put it on the ball. Yes! Back to back to back. And it is 3-1 Sox.
So of course, Randy Johnson, granted, he wasn't exactly in his prime that season. 2005 for the Yankees, not exactly his best year. In fact, if you pull it up right here, you see that he had a 3.79 ERA. Not terrible, but certainly not the Randy Johnson that we're all used to. It was past his 4 straight Cy Young awards. The main reason I put this in is because I needed a regular season highlight, and I couldn't turn down an idea to get a Hawk Harrelson call in there.
Oh yeah, you need
that at least once.
Yeah, you need Hawk Harrelson.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily we get some Chris Berman on our highlight reel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was probably the regular season highlight, something you don't see very often, three home runs in a row by the White Sox against future Hall of Famer Randy Johnson.
Right.
So the White Sox, they end up being first in the American League in reliever wins above replacement, and second in the American League in reliever earned run average.
That being helped by guys like Bobby Jenks, by guys like Neil Kotz. Those are the main 2 guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And their starters did even better. They were first in the American League in starter wins above replacement, and also first in the American League in starter ERA.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a really unique squad, this entire pitching staff. They ranked 10th in the American League in ground ball percentage and first in left on base percentage. And their left on base percentage was 75.4%. And not a lot you see. Usually, soft contact ground balls that'll help you in the left on base department. Not the case here. I guess they got a lot of pop outs or weak fly balls, and they were able to leave guys on. They were able to leave guys on at a spectacular rate, and the next team to do that was the 2011 Rays. So that's 6 years that it took for that to happen again.
75.4% left on base.
Yeah, you mentioned Bobby Jenks as being a main guy, but Dustin Hermanson probably goes under the radar because he was the closer for basically the entire season. He was 34 for 39 in save opportunities, had a 2.04 ERA, and then in late September he suffers a back injury, and that makes rookie Bobby Jenks have all the pressure on him, and he's the new closer for the playoffs, which he wasn't a closer to begin with, and now you're just the closer for the playoffs. So we'll see how that works for Bobby Jenks and Ozzie Guillen, but from a lens back then, you're thinking this might not end well for the White Sox, but the team, they were 99 and 63, and definitely carried by Ozzie Guillen, who you're going to talk about. Ozzie Guillen was revolutionary for the White Sox.
So before we get into what happened with the White Sox in the playoffs, I would be remiss to talk about the charismatic man that Ozzie Guillen was. His second year as the White Sox manager. There's two moments I would like to talk about specifically. Actually, there's three. One of them will come in later, but there's two that I'm going to mention right now. One of them occurred 10 years after this team. In 2015, Ozzie Guillen came into the White Sox broadcast booth to do an interview during a game like they do. And the reporter asked the cliche, "When did you know that this team was special?" Question. And, normally when this question is asked, the manager will give the cliche like, "Oh, I saw them in spring training and they looked really good and they were bonding well together. And I knew that that's when we were going to be special." And Ozzie Guillen instead gives an answer that says, "Well, when I was making the lineup card," assuming that means spring training, early regular season, I knew that this was a good group of guys that I wanted to manage, but I didn't think they were going to win the World Series. He didn't think they were going to win the World Series back then. They shocked the world. They shocked everybody. That's a great Ozzie Guillen moment, in my opinion. Just that nobody says that. Like, everyone gives the cliche, "I saw it in spring training and I knew that it was special." And that's obviously something you can easily say in hindsight, which is what this was. But Ozzie Guillen didn't say that. He told it like it was. He's honest, and I love that about him. Another quote that I had, this is completely random, doesn't really have much to do with the 2005 team, but this is him speaking on. So Bleacher Report has an article about him where they coined him the R-rated Yogi. Yep. And he was talking about death one day, and Ozzie Guillen said, quote, "I hope I die on the field. I hope when I walk to change the pitcher, I drop dead and that's it. I know my family would be so happy that it happened on the field. They wouldn't feel bad because that's what I've always wanted to do."
Yeah, that's the ultimate baseball guy.
Who says that? Ozzie Guillen, that's who.
For sure.
Well, I love this guy. I don't know if he's open to another managerial job, but I would not complain if he gets another one.
Oh yeah, he's get him on a talented roster. I think that would be absolutely hilarious. Yeah. I mean the Marlins experiment didn't work out, but it's probably because of the players on the field there.
We'll see.
I
would not be opposed to him getting another job if possible.
Yeah, it's just good for baseball. Mm-hmm. It's just good for baseball there. So yeah, the White Sox, the Ozzie Guillen led 2005 Chicago White Sox, they are going to face the 2005 wild card team, the defending World Series champion Boston Red Sox. Mm-hmm. So they go into game one pretty loose. I mean, they were pretty confident. The documentary that I watched said they were pretty loose because it was kind of a new bunch. They didn't really, you could kind of go one of two ways. You could have a lot of pressure on you, or you could really just not care really at all. And I guess whatever methods the White Sox chose seemed to work, because in game one, it was pedal to the metal. They won 14-2. Matt Clement, one of the worst Red Sox free agent signings in recent history. Definitely laid an egg on the mound for the Red Sox. And the White Sox were able to hit 5 home runs. Yeah, they were able to hit 5 home runs. 2 from A.J. Przinsky, 1 from Konerko, 1 from Uribe, and 1 from Scott Podsednik, who had not hit a home run all year during the regular season.
Not a single one. 0 home runs. And he actually, what's funny is the year before he hit, I believe, 12 home runs, and he had a better OPS in 2005.
Yeah, that's wild.
He had a flat 700, 59 stolen bases.
Yeah, pretty
he
wild.
He made the All-Star team.
Yeah.
0 home runs in the regular season for Scott Podsednik, and he makes it in game 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah, and it wasn't just an offensive performance from those guys. They won 14-2, so obviously the man on the mound for Chicago had to bring it, and that was Jose Contreras.
Yeah.
He went 7 2/3. Get ready for a lot of long appearances for these starters. Contreras, he went 7 2/3, allowed 8 hits, 2 runs, and was able to get 6 strikeouts, which was probably a lot for Jose Contreras in 7 2/3 innings. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's that game, it wasn't really in question for a long time. But game 2, that's when it started to get dicey for the White Sox. They were actually down 4-0 in the 3rd inning. And in the 5th inning, they were able to get some base runners on. And basically this entire video kind of describes what happens.
Yeah.
There's an ad.
First, an ad.
But first, a 15-second ad that you're not going to see because, no free ads for us.
Is it one of those unskippable ads?
Unskippable, yeah, dude.
That's tough.
Apple, I mean, I know I said no free ads, but Apple really screws with you on the 15 seconds.
Who doesn't know what Apple is?
It's a fruit.
Exactly.
It's a fruit.
Yeah,
I like it. I eat one almost every day. All right, so here we are. This is the newly acquired David Wells on the mound. This is what the White Sox were able to do in the 5th inning, down 4-0 against the defending World Series champion Boston Red Sox.
Line drive down the left field line, dropping quick to the corner. This ball bounces fair. Down the line it goes, rolls around the corner. Everett's going to come home. Into second base is Roan with a run-scoring double. Sox are on the board.
So now it's 4-1.
4-1 here in the 5th. That ball was spared by about 2 inches. White Sox trying to add a run. They trail 4-1 at the 2-2 to Creedy. Swing, bouncing ball over the mound, up the middle. Through for a base hit. Rowan walks in. Creedy's got an RBI single, and Sox have cut the lead to 4-2. That's a seeing eye single. You talk about making adjustments, though. Joe was popping up the ball yesterday, Ed. There he was just trying to take the ball back to the middle. Made solid contact. Graffinino and Renteria had no chance to catch. 1 ball, 1 strike on Iguchi. A look at first, the 1-1. Curveball hit deep to left. This has got a chance to the bullpen. 3-run homer. He picked up Pitsednik. Sox lead 5-4.
A crazy turnaround right there. There was an error by Tony Graffinino, who, I mean, can you get more Italian than that? Tony Graffinino, please, man. But yeah, Tony Graffinino has an error with 2 outs. So all 3 of the runs allowed by David Wells there on Tadahito Iguchi's home run, all 3 are unearned, but that does not matter on the scoreboard because they're up 5-4, and they're able to keep the score the same, and they win that game. They're up 2-0.
That's right. Going into
looking to clinch in Game 3 at Fenway, but it was not easy. It was not easy in Game 3. The White Sox, it was close. The White Sox, they were up 4-3, but unfortunately for the White Sox, the Red Sox load up the bases in the late innings. They load up the bases in the late innings. This ad I can skip. Here we go.
Perfect.
So
El Duque coming out of the bullpen.
What inning was it?
Sixth.
It's the 6th inning. The White Sox are up 4-3, but it's bases loaded with nobody out. Nobody
is out.
And you're going to see who came up to the plate. No slouches, for sure. I mean, I think the Red Sox led in team OPS that year.
Yeah, they did.
Pitched for years with the New York Yankees and a couple of stints there.
This guy has postseason experience for sure.
Can we acknowledge the 1917 sign in the background? The year after 1918 stopped being a thing.
Skies it. Konerko calls Brzezinski off. Makes the grab. Big out there. Pops him up as well. Uribe calls for it at short.
They are high-fiving at home plate right there. I think Brzezinski talked him in.
Here comes another 3-2 count to Damon.
Sox El Duque goes charging off as well. He should. He comes in with the bases loaded and gets Veritek, Graffinito, and Damon.
So that's the gist of that basically shut down the Red Sox for the rest of the game, which was ultimately the rest of the series. Red Sox don't score another run after that, and I said that the guys were no slouches. I forgot that Tony Graffinino was one of the.
I wasn't gonna say that beforehand,
Yeah.
but I knew you were gonna say it afterwards. But hey, Veritek and Damon, two key parts of that lineup
in their prime.
Yes.
Veritek pops out 2-0, which is inexcusable, and then Damon swings just enough on a 3-2 count, and no one scores, and the White Sox got an insurance run late. They ended up winning.
By the way, one thing I do want to touch on, I couldn't find this highlight anywhere, but the way the White Sox got insurance in the 9th was on a bunt by Juan Uribe.
Huh.
Think about that. With a runner on third, he bunted to get the insurance run in. It's not something you see that often, and that kind of speaks to the type of baseball that this team played. Like, they mixed in the small ball with the homers. I believe they had over 200 homers as a team that year as well.
Yeah, they were that for sure an interesting team. Interesting is definitely
They're a mixture of both.
Definitely the way that you would put it. And the White Sox, they get that insurance run, as Daniel said.
Mm-hmm.
They do not allow any more runs. They win 5-3, and they are going to the American League Championship Series, which that was their first playoff series win since 1917.
88 years.
88 years since their last playoff series win, and they finally get it.
So the ALCS opponent for the White Sox would be the Anaheim Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, whatever you want to call them. And this is the ALCS matchup we were supposed to get. These are the best two teams going at it overall, both record-wise, I believe. And both record-wise and just by overall how good they were talent-wise. The Angels played a 5-game ALDS against the Yankees, and they obviously beat them. They played in New York on October 9th. Game 4 was delayed by a day because of the rain. So they played in New York on the 9th. They lost. They played in LA on the 10th. They won. And on the 11th, they went to Chicago. So that's 3 different games in 3 completely different cities, basically on other sides of the country in 3 days. And still, they come out and win Game 1 on the road behind Paul Bird, Scott Shields, and K-Rod. Also, Garrett Anderson homered. And that was the Angels winning Game 1. In Game 2, however, things were different. It was a 1-1 game going into the 9th inning. And this was pretty much one of the most remembered moments this was the most remembered moment of this series. And it was A.J. Pierzynski reaching on a controversial strikeout, a drop third strike call, which allowed the White Sox to rally around that. And Chris, you're going to pull up the video.
Yeah, here we are.
Escobar, another strikeout. Pierzynski is going down to first. The home plate umpire has now made a call. It's safe, and the Angels are already off the field. Well, if Josh Paul made the catch, which he did, then it's a strikeout. Pierzynski's thinking, hey, why not? The home plate umpire couldn't make the call. This might be the best thing for instant replay in baseball that's happened and occurred this postseason, because clearly he caught the ball and the catcher knows whether it's a short hop or you catch it cleanly, whether there's leather between the dirt. He's going. They don't pitch out. Strike 2. But down to second is Pablo Ozuna.
So now you got a man on scoring position for Joe Creedy when the inning should have been over.
And that's into the left field corner. This ball is off the wall. The White Sox have won, and this only begins what will be an argument. Total frustration and disgust on the part of the Angels on that call, which allowed the ninth to continue.
So, obviously, a lot of controversy sparked there. I looked at it a lot of times. I do think it hits the ground. just barely. But I mean, the term game of inches is there's no better place for it than right there.
Also, I loved how McCarver said, this is a case for Major League Baseball to install replay, and luckily the MLB was able to implement it soon.
9 years later.
9 years, yeah.
9 years later.
They were right on top of it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was a different commissioner too. Like Selig was in office at that time, and he didn't even do it.
Yeah.
But hey, a heads up play there from AJ Przinsky.
Absolutely.
I guess as a catcher, it makes sense that he's the guy that's thinking about that. Obviously, he doesn't get tagged, so he runs down to first, and it just so happens that the ball did just hit the ground. Or maybe it didn't, but I don't know. And Joe Creedy, of course, the walk-off double. Also, Mark Burley got the win in that game in a complete game. Game 3, the Sox go out to Anaheim, and they win the game 5-2. John Garland with a complete game, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. Konerko had 3 hits, one of them being a homer, and he also had 3 RBIs.
You have to think here that maybe Guillen was hesitant to trust Bobby Jenks.
Maybe.
Because, usually in the late innings you're putting him the closer, but, I don't know.
We'll see. In Game 4, the Sox win 8-2. Freddie Garcia's turn. 9 innings pitched. That's right, another complete game. 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Konerko hit another home run, and he also had another 3 RBIs. He had a 3-run home run in the first inning, in fact. And in Game 5, the White Sox win 6-3. They clinch the series. And it was Jose Contreras, 9 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts over a complete game. Folks, that is 4 straight complete games by White Sox starting pitchers in a single playoff series. That'll never be done again. We will never see that again.
And, it's not even something that was a trend beforehand. That was the first time that was done since 1928.
That's right. That's almost 100 years. That's
77 years.
3/4 of a century. Folks, I just said it, but I'll say it for the rest of the show. That will never happen again. You will never see 4 pitchers from the same team throw complete games 4 times in a row in a single playoff series.
Yeah, I don't know how many times we'll see 4 pitchers.
5 innings in a row.
4 starting pitchers. Yeah, I was going to say 7, but even 5 is aggressive.
So despite the fantastic pitching, Paul Konerko actually wins MVP, and nothing to complain about. 286, 318, 619, 937, with 2 home runs and 7 RBI. Could have easily made a case for Joe Creedy, who had that walk-off. He also went 368 average, 1139 OPS, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, just like Konerko. But nonetheless, Konerko gets it. I'm sure Joe Creedy's fine with it. And the White Sox go on to the World Series. They're facing the Houston Astros, an 89-win team who came out of the wild card. Interesting matchup, great pitching. They got Roy Oswalt. They got Andy Pettit. They got
the Rocket.
Clemens. They got Brendan Backey, who we'll talk about in a little bit.
Clemens had a crazy year that year too.
Yes, he did. In Game 1, it was a back-and-forth game. The White Sox win 5-3 on homers from Jermaine Dye and Joe Creedy. No particular highlights, but one thing I did want to address. Bobby Jenks got the save in this game, and this is the other Ozzie Guillen story that I was going to hold off on. When Ozzie Guillen went to the bullpen, he put Bobby Jenks in mid-inning, and he walks out and motions for a big wide guy with his arms. He does like the wide arms instead of the hand to call for the lefty or the righty. And he eventually did do the arms thing, but the first thing he did was he called for a big wide guy in Jenks. And Jenks said he had no problem with it. He thought it was funny. But what manager in this game is doing that? Nobody.
No one, yeah.
But not a single. You're not going to see Ron Gardenhire from the Tigers going out and doing this when calling for a reliever.
Yeah.
You're definitely not going to see Rick Renteria, the current White Sox manager, doing it either. But that was Game 1. Game 2, a classic. One of the best games in the 21st century. It was back and forth early, and then Paul Konerko comes up down 2-4, and gives the White Sox the best hit, the biggest hit in the history of their franchise. Chris, roll the video.
Grand slam.
Off of Chad Qualls.
One thing I will add to that grand slam is there might have been some luck involved there because there was also a hit batsman. Jermaine Dye was hit earlier, right. And there were things saying that it could have been the bat. It was kind of hard to see because his sleeve was black.
He could have hit the bat there. Another time where they could have had instant replay.
Yeah, his sleeve was black and the bat was also black. So maybe another thing going Chicago's way, but they didn't really need any luck. They were crazy good.
They were fine.
Yeah.
And then Bobby Jenks actually blows the save in the 9th inning. By the way, that put the White Sox up 6-4. Jenks ended up blowing the save in the 9th inning. And then the man of few powerful swings, but timely ones nonetheless, Scott Podsednik comes up and sends him home happy. When Chris pulls up this video here.
Sorry, everything's got to be perfect. Full screen, unmuted. Here we are.
You're not sharing the screen, Chris.
Second home run of the postseason, and the White Sox win it 7-6.
Just a classic game.
That's right. Scott Podsednik with 0 home runs in the regular season walks it off for his second home run in the postseason, of course.
And also you have to consider that's 40-degree weather.
Yeah, ball's not carrying. Maybe it's the wind of the Windy City, Chicago. I don't know.
Even still.
Game 3 was the longest home run in World Series history by innings and by time. This no longer stands due to Ian Kinsler. That's okay. But Jeff Blum hit a home run in the 14th to put the Sox on top. And the White Sox bullpen allowed no runs and 1 hit over 7 innings of work. Also, Mark Burley got the save in this game, the first save of his career. And Chris is going to pull up the Jeff Blum home run. By the way, this was Blum's only plate appearance in the World Series. He finished with a 1,000, 1,000, 4,000, 5,000 quadruple slash line. That's perfect. It can't get any better than that.
Yeah, and in the World Series DVD, they actually he was mic'd for batting practice.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I might be able to get in. There's no DH here, so I might be able to get in. Try to hit something good."
This is the last guy off the bench.
Yeah, he did. And also, you have to consider he's been sitting there for 4.5 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
Just waiting, and comes off the bench, and our prep sheet again. I have to move this. Okay, here we are. And he comes off the bench. It's the 14th inning, tie game. Been a tie game for a while. So here's Jeff Blum on a 2-0 count.
Hits it into right, down the line. It is gone. Jeff Blum, the former Astro, goes deep. And here in the 14th inning, the White Sox take a 6-5 lead. Jeff Blum gets his first at bat of this series and only his second of the postseason.
And that's making the best of your opportunities right there, Chris.
Absolutely.
So the White Sox go on to win. They're 1 game away from the World Series, the victory. And in Game 4, we get a good old-fashioned pitcher's duel. Freddie Garcia and Brandon Backey both pitched 7 shutout innings. And something has to give, and it did in the 8th inning. Jermaine Dye hits a 2-out RBI single up the middle off of Brad Lidge in the 8th, and the score holds from there. And in the 9th inning, we get 2 great plays by Juan Uribe. And Chris, why don't you play both of those clips to end the storybook season for this team?
Yeah, I mean it's just so fitting that a guy like Uribe, just kind of a random guy. There wasn't a lot of star power on this team, so it's fitting that kind of just the everyday consistent shortstop just is able to get these plays.
That's right.
Needing that hit. Pumps it up. Left side. Will it stay in play? The catch is made by Uribe, an unbelievable grab. Ending up in the crowd as he pulls in out number 2 in the ninth. What a remarkable play with his back facing first base, catching it, and then tumbling into the crowd here at Minute Maid Park. My goodness. What a play. So now 2 out. The White Sox 1 out away.
So that would be the second out of the inning.
Yeah, so that's out number 2. Still a tight game. You still got a man on first. Guys to worry about.
And second.
Guys to worry about. And Uribe, he makes a great play there.
It looks like we're getting an ad.
It's hard. It's hard doing this. But you got 2 down, man on first. It's a 1-0 game. Anything can happen here. A hit would kind of mess things up. So here we are for
history.
For history. Oh, whoops. I'm going to restart it.
Second, 2 out, Palmero over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges, throws out, and the White Sox have won the World Series. Juan Uribe with a play, charging it, throwing it, and the White Sox celebrate their first title in 88 years.
So there it is. The White Sox win the World Series. They break an 88-year-long drought, and one of the most remarkable teams that nobody remembers.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is a team that doesn't unfairly does not get recognized for their dominance. They went 11-1 in the postseason, folks.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys did the math at home. They went 11-1 in the postseason, and since they
won every game on the road too.
Yeah, won every game on the road, and since they brought the 3-series format in 1995, since they made that playoff format, only one other team has only lost 1 game in the playoffs. That was the 1999 Yankees, who, I imagine he was on paper far better than the White Sox, but the White Sox were right up there in terms of postseason dominance for sure.
So Jermaine Dye wins World Series MVP, and there's no doubt in my mind. 438, 526, 688, 1214. Slashline also got the game-winning RBI in Game 4. Joe Creedy throughout the postseason was so clutch. 289, 327, 622, 949 with 4 home runs, 11 RBI. And this team leaves behind a legacy that, in my opinion, personifies the human element to the game. They didn't have a crazy star-studded lineup. They didn't have pitchers that would blow you away with 97-mile-an-hour gas. They were just incredibly timely. They had a flair for the dramatic, and they always knew how to get it done when you needed to. They made the timely pitches. They got the timely hits. They made the big plays when they needed to. And that's sort of a lost art in today's game. And that's not a bad thing by any means for this team. They have this human element that nobody else can say that they have, really.
Yeah, and the team, they were a team. They were a cohesive unit. When the pitchers gave up more runs, the offense was able to match them. When the lineup was kind of going cold, the the pitching staff was able to hold it together and make sure they were able to win the game every single time.
And one last thing, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I guess it's better that we do it now. In 2014, Paul Molitor retired with the White Sox. He played his entire career there, and they had a ceremony beforehand during the game, and they actually brought out the guy who caught his grand slam in Game 2, and he returned it to him, and it was a really cool gesture. We have a video that we're going to play in just a moment, but I mean, one of the defining moments in this franchise's history, and to bring it all back and have it come full circle in the hands of Paul Molitor, the best player on this team on the offense, and the face of this franchise, was just super fitting, and it was really nice to see.
Yeah, when did he get it? Yeah, he got his number retired pretty much immediately.
Yeah, he's eligible for he was eligible for the Hall of Fame ballot this year. I don't believe he got in, but that's okay. That's not important. What's important was that he led this team to championship glory for the first time in 88
definitely
years.
A White Sox legend. He's not going to have to buy any alcoholic beverage in the south side of Chicago, at least in the near future.
Really important ball. The ball that you hit for the grand slam home run. Well, Brooks Boyer, our senior vice president, was determined to find that ball. And
shout out to Hall of Famer Jim Thome in the back.
Found it. It was owned by a gentleman named Chris Clays. We sought him out. We asked him if he would bring the ball and give it to you. He did not hesitate, and he's here now to present it to you.
So, yeah, definitely a super cool moment. Super cool moment for both guys. I mean, imagine being the fan. Like you get to deliver the most famous home run in his career to him.
History of your franchise too.
Yeah, and you're the most important home run of the franchise, and you're the player. You get to get a home run that you've hit 9 years prior.
That's what I was gonna say. Is you get to keep the ball for 9 years and then have your moment of fame when everyone's nostalgic about it.
Yeah, that's big time. That's big time.
Yeah. So that'll close the door on the 2005 Chicago White Sox. A great team.
For sure.
And a lost art of team building.
I mean, I wouldn't go. I don't know if I can go through every team, but maybe the most overlooked World Series team of the century.
You could definitely say that, and we're here to change that.
Yeah, and
we have both become big time advocates of this team throughout this week of research, and I mean this picture behind me alone. This is the 4 pitchers who threw complete games in one series with their pitching coach. Something that you're never going to see again. I'll say it 1,000 times. It's never going to happen again.
Yeah, and it's about the team. There were neither of them. None of them won the Cy Young. They didn't have an MVP winner.
I think it was like 5th or 6th.
Yeah, it wasn't a star-studded bunch. It was just guys who played as a team, and each starter.
There's a lot to respect about that, and you gotta love Ozzie Guillen too.
Yeah, each starter did their job, and of course they had a great manager to lead the way. So that closes the door on the 2005 White Sox. Make sure to remember them. Keep them in your thoughts when you're talking about the great teams, especially when you're talking about great teams of like the 21st century in recent memory. But that leads us to probably the most exciting part of the show, at least for us.
Yeah. This moment determines my whole week.
Yeah, determines our whole week, determines who we're thinking about in the baseball world, because there's no one else to think about.
Exactly.
So
I picked first last time, so you're gonna go ahead. Number 1 through 30.
Number 1 through 30. The team we will be talking about is team number 28.
Team number 28? Ooh. Well, isn't this just hilarious, Chris? We're going to talk about the World Series champion, 1993 Toronto Blue Jays.
Let's go.
Playoffs.
Because I was looking at this team and I was like, this is a pretty cool team.
Yeah.
And we are talking about, as we've talked about Paul Molitor's great performance. We get into the 1990
That is perfect.
Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm excited. I'm excited about next episode.
And I guess it's my turn now. Number 1 through 30
Your
as well.
turn. Pick a number, 1 through 30.
We're going to go with number 18.
Number 18.
Mm-hmm.
We are going with a man who finished with exactly 3,000 hits. Roberto Clemente.
One of the best humanitarian in all of baseball. A man who arguably should have his number retired through the whole league.
Yeah, definitely. If there's a second guy who should have his number retired, it's Roberto Clemente with number 21. Played his entire career with the Pirates, and it's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a fun one for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that leads us to the conclusion of our episode. This was a bit of a long one. I think it ran near 2 hours. I don't know if
it definitely went over 2 hours.
If it was exactly 2 hours, because we did take a break in the middle. Because right now it's 10:16 and we started at like 8:15.
Yeah.
So I hope you all enjoyed this episode where we talked about Paul Molitor and the 2005 Chicago White Sox.
Very fun.
So if you're listening just on audio and you want to check out video, our YouTube channel is STBNL with Chris Gianta and Daniel Curran. I know it's a lot to type in, but once you get in the search history, you can just click it. But you can subscribe to that. You can watch all of our episodes. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can go to @Chris_Gianta. If you want to follow Daniel on Twitter, that's @Daniel_Curran.
Curren.
Yes, Curren.
The popular way is AN, but that's not how it is.
Yeah, I am GIONTA. If you didn't know that, but I mean it's in our show title, so I think you should be able to get that. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you will enjoy our next episode, which will be showing up on YouTube. I know that for sure. I don't know about Apple Podcasts because they've had a delayed response, but you will see our next episode on next Wednesday, when we will be talking about Roberto Clemente and the 1993 Toronto Blue Jays. See you next week.